Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of U.S. News Update, episode 71. Today's date, September 15, 2023. Some of the things we'll cover: sun, moon, and stars. Lee, the hurricane, threatening the U.S. East Coast. The U.S. economy, what's going on? Banks, NORAD, plus a whole lot more. Some of my sources are God in the Bible Patriot subscriber, a Minute to Midnight interview with Stan Deyo, Ryan Hall, y'all, Hal Turner, plus. So let's get started. I have some Patriot subscribers in New Mexico where the governor just arbitrarily said, oh, I'll just do away with the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and tell people in New Mexico you can't carry guns. So this Patriot subscriber says she did that in response to a road rage. She didn't even know if the shooter was an American citizen or not. Yeah, I don't think that's now. The Attorney General of New Mexico has stated, because she's got all these lawsuits against her, the governor, that she's going to have to pay for her own attorney. I don't see that lasting. They may impeach her, recall her. I have a Patriot subscriber who's talking about, yes, ask a question. The FEMA is to do an emergency alert system, or EBS, check on the alert system in the U.S., and they're going to do that October 4. And her question was, what time zone is that? October 4 at 2:20, or some sources say 2:15 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. And now I have this. I have a Patriot subscriber who says, I've been feeling anxious. Is there something going on with the Schumann? Yeah, I've been feeling that way too. For me, it's like feeling sad, and that's not normal. So yes, we can overcome that with prayer for sure. But yes, something's going on with the Schumann, the sun, the moon, the stars. Yeah. And I have a Patriot subscriber who says, a good Faraday cage for your phone is a microwave. Now, we know on that emergency broadcast that's being done by FEMA on October 4, we understand that President Trump, the 70% of the U.S. military, he's in, who has pledged allegiance to recognize President Trump as the current commander-in-chief, has put forth, and this would be from the military commanders, for October 4, during this FEMA test, that this portion, 70% at least of the U.S. military, are to turn off their phones, and also there's other mobile devices like smartphones and tablets like that. So yeah. All right, so let's get started. This is going to be very interesting. It'll be a Minute to Midnight. Tony Caress, he's a New Zealand musician, author, truther, interviewed Stan Deyo. Now, Stan is a physicist, IQ 180. He knows a lot. He's pretty smart. Author of The Cosmic Conspiracy that came out in, the 70s. I recently, just about 6 weeks ago, ordered a paperback copy from Amazon, $63. Pretty pricey for a paperback, but God said, I want you to get this and read it. And Stan also is the inventor of EMP Shield. And he is now been awarded $1 billion plus from the U.S. government. Apparently everybody with the U.S. government is not stupid or evil. To begin in Kansas a chip manufacturing. And his initial job will be to produce chips for the U.S. military. We know that the JB entity ended the U.S. Working relationship with the Taiwan chip manufacturers. So now Stan is going to be starting up a company in Kansas, and several other people are also going to be have been awarded $1 billion plus money from the U.S. government to begin other types of chip manufacturing also in Kansas. So I'm not sure why Kansas is a major hub for railroads, so I don't know if that has to do with shipping or it has to do with a good location in terms of earth changes that are going on. So that's going on. So Stan brought out some interesting information. I know recently I had that information and confirmation from Mike from around the world. We know that Mike is regularly on Pastor Paul Begley's Thursday night program. We believe that Mike works for the NSA. Mike knows stuff. Brought out that information, corroborating information that had been coming out from Bess and Taylor for about 4 to 6 weeks, that on the Earth we were getting UV A, B, and then Mike corroborated C. Now Stan is saying there's two different types of radiation coming from the sun that's now hitting the Earth, because we have our magnetic shield that comes from inside the Earth. This has been going down for decades. I studied that when I was in college in the 90s. So we have the shield going down around the Earth. We have more radiation coming in that directly affects our health and state of mind for sure. A, B, and C. C penetrates much deeper. Now, Stan is bringing this out. We have two additional types of radiation hitting the Earth. One, I believe, is muons, which penetrate deep into the Earth. I submit the other is gamma rays. So for sure, you want to, when you go out in the sun, sunscreen and hats and gloves and glasses and wow. So that's going on. So we have more going on from the sun, and this also directly impacts hurricanes, weather formation. Now, Stan is bringing this out, this information. Stan's also a Christian. Yes, we do have HAARP and geoengineering of the sun, but the primary driver of the sun, of the weather, is the sun. And we have changes on the Earth and more rays coming in, so we're seeing changes in our weather. Now, he's also bringing this out, which I found very interesting, that Hurricane Lee and Margot are sharing an energy field. Because I brought up that information from from Hal Turner, that possibility that 3 hurricanes could combine in the Atlantic. I submit positive geoengineering has been going on to prevent that from happening. But the fact that Stan is bringing this out, there's a common energy field around these two systems. Lee is a hurricane. Margot is close to being a hurricane, and that unnamed system, 2B Nigel, has 90% chance for formation in the next 48 hours. Okay, so yeah, Stan is saying that the sun is changing all these rays are reaching the earth. It's going to increase hurricanes, and we had that also from Mike from around the world. We would see hypercanes, much larger. And we have this now. So we know the moon and stars are going to be moving into a constellation, Virgo, and that's from Revelation about the stars and the woman producing a child. It referred to the Virgo constellation, and this is to, he says, the moon will be at the feet of Virgo, and that's from Revelations also, about September 18, and that, yeah, and this information that Stan was putting out also correlates to the WebBot data from Cliff High, and that in Virgo in September, stars will be in the womb of the constellation, and we'll also have in the south an asteroid that's named Wormwood. Stan also is credited with locating the Garden of Eden some years ago. I'll have to do more research on that, but I recall that he put that out. So we have that going on. And now we'll look at Lee and some things going on in the U.S. Make no mistake about it, I got my camo. I've added that to my outfit now. When I began this YouTube in June of 2020, after we had that bioweapon, remember that at the beginning of 2020? The parameters from God for how I put forth my image. You know, some people don't show their face, or they change their name, or no, I was to do it in a certain way for people to become familiar with my face, my name, and my voice, and to wear black. That was just something catching. But now I'm nudging by God to add camo, because we are at war. Okay, suspicious observers, Ben Davidson, a science-based space weather program, is talking about, yeah, so today, 9:15, we did have on the sun, and Stan Delio also brought that out, more impact from the sun, from CMEs. And we should have a coronal mass ejection energy from the sun getting here tomorrow, September 16, and the night. And when we have these CMEs, it also impacts what's called the KP index. That tells us about aurora borealis, or the northern lights. The higher the KP index goes, which correlates to CMEs, energy coming in, then we'll see the northern lights down into the lower latitudes, into Canada, Alaska, and sometimes all the way down to Mexico. So, yeah, and that's a lot of energy. And now we have this. Excuse me. Yeah, I'll cover Lee in a moment. And we have, yeah, suspicious observers and Zeta talk also covered. So we have the U.S., we've got Canada, the U.S., we've got Africa down here. We had Morocco. And Zeta Talk gave out that in Evansville, Indiana, and also in China, in the Bay of Beijing, On September 7, we had a shift in the Earth, an Earth change, and the direction moved south to north in these same locations. And it affected GPS, but it's also affecting things like this earthquake that came up in Morocco. And then we know Libya is flooding. So that's going on. Now, Mike from around the world was also talking about the orcas. And I put out a previous video some months ago about orcas attacking ships. And I put out that it appeared that they were trained to do so. And I know the U.S. military does train dolphins, orcas, and so on. And Mike says it's because there are more volcanoes coming up, and that correlates to the information I received from God in the fall of 2020. Inside the earth, magma is rising on a global basis. And God said, pay attention to the edges of the tectonic plates where more magma is going to be coming up. And Mike can put this out all over the earth. We have more earthquakes. We also have new fault lines. We have things going on geologically. So, correlating to what Stan Deyo said, that geoengineering and HAARP does have an impact on the weather, but the primary driver is the sun and more energy from the sun coming in. So we had that earthquake. Now, with regard to the orcas, Mike was putting forth that the orcas were just trying to warn the boats away from these dangerous areas in the ocean. Could be, but I also believe they could be trained to do so. So, yeah, that's going on. They don't tell us everything, do they? No. Okay, now we have this. So we'll cover what's going on with Lee. That's a hurricane that is going to be impacting the East Coast and Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Lee. And we have Margot. And we have the new area to become Nigel. So, Lee is currently a Category 1 hurricane. It has winds of 85 miles per hour or 137 kilometers per hour. Barometric pressure 962. Moving at 16 miles per hour or 26 kilometers per hour. And we have Margot, not a Cat 1 yet. Its winds are at 70 miles per hour. When they get up to 74, it will become a Cat 1 hurricane. So Margot is currently at 70 miles per hour or 113 kilometers per hour. Barometric pressure 984. Moving at 3 miles per hour or 5 kilometers per hour. Now this area is just a disturbance, has 90% chance of development within the next 48 hours. So that's what's going on. So we have Stan Deyo saying, we're seeing this, and Mike from around the world saying we could begin to see hypercanes. So that's going on. And now we have this coming out from California, CA. I found this very interesting too. So we know that a lot of our movies are predictive, and we saw the movie Volcano. That was with Tommy Lee Jones some years ago. And as it began, it was showing in Los Angeles, tar from the La Brea tar pits bubbling up. And that's what we're seeing now in Los Angeles. Tar is oozing from the La Brea tar pits, and it's covered several streets. This has been in the last week to 10 days in the area of the La Brea tar pits. So yeah, what's going on? Now we have this from Strange Sounds. Sinkholes developing in San Francisco. So they had a sinkhole. I saw it, the whole middle of the street had fallen through in San Francisco, Fillmore, and Green Street. And it also stated in January we had a sinkhole develop in Los Angeles. In April, we had one develop in Texas. So yeah, earth changes going on. And now we have this. We have, so now we'll begin covering the U.S. economy and some other warlike things that are actually going on, and we the people are not being told about it. So we got Canada, Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, coming down to California, Texas, Florida, on up. So we got this. Gregory Mannarino, a New York economist, on September 12 says, the military is the largest since the Cold War in terms of money. And in terms of size, the U.S. military currently has 1.25 million. The militias, made up of citizens, which Mike from around the world said, these are not your neighborhood people. No, there's plenty of ex-military plus in these militias with plenty of guns and other things. Stands at 100 million plus, and is growing every day as what's going on in the U.S. becomes more to the forefront of American citizens. And that, and currently has 44 generals. And in World War II, we had a U.S. military of 12 million, and we had about 7 to 10 generals. So we can readily see, it looks a little top heavy there. So Gregory Mannarino, the market believes the Fed will cut interest rates, and the markets believe that war is coming. And I would agree with that. And now we have this. Hal Turner is bringing this out. Recently, on September 14, and that was in Nebraska. It was in North Platte, Nebraska. Union Pacific Railroad had an explosion on one of its rail cars, and they put a 4-mile evac all around it, and the U.S. Air Force put a nuke sniffer in the air. And this is coming out that Union Pacific in North Platte, Nebraska, has the world's largest rail yard. And the Federal Rail Administration is saying that Union Pacific is not taking care of its equipment. 70% of its engines need repair, and 20% of its rail cars. So we'll have to keep up with what's happening with that rail car that exploded in Nebraska a couple of days ago. Now, banks. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, one of the largest banks in the world, on Monday, September 11, said, it was a conference meeting sponsored by Barclays, the U.S. economy is going down in the next few months in response to new regulations being put out by the Fed called Basel III Endgame, and that many banks will have loan problems like we saw with Silicon Valley Bank. We know that was a large bank in California that went down a few months ago. And their advice to clients is to stay defensive, and there's a potential for a spike in inflation. That means our prices at the grocery stores will go up. And now we have this from Epic Economist. 15 fast food places are going to be closing in the next year or so, including Krispy Kreme, Buffalo Wings, Red Lobster, or they'll be closing a lot of their locations. Sizzler, Taco Bueno, Odaba, Crystal, and Boston Market. So, yeah, depend on God, I say. Now we have this. Also, so we have Mexico, we've got Central America, right here, Central America. Then we would go down into South America. So in this area right here, we have the Panama Canal, which a previous president, decades ago, Jimmy Carter, gave to the government of Panama, and in 1999 it sold the Panama Canal. Who did it? Sell it to China. And what's going on with the Panama Canal? We understand the Panama Canal carries 40% of global shipping, and China has now basically shut it down, going from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. The ships have to go through a series of locks. They are adjusting levels between one ocean to the next, and they use fresh water. And they're saying there's not enough fresh water. We've got to shut this down. And now ships are out waiting for at least 1 month. And we understand the governor of Panama has said this slowdown, the shipping through the Panama Canal this week was totally shut down. And now they're saying, oh, in the future we'll let one ship in and one ship in. And it's going to last for the next 10 months. And what this means is on the East Coast and the West Coast, empty shelves. And it also means what you're paying for it is going to go up. So yeah, that's going on. And China now controls it. We'll see what else China is doing. Okay, we have this. Now we'll talk about the CCP that's inside the U.S. We've been hearing reports from various sources for years. Dave Hodges, Mike from around the world. This is, so Mike from around the world is saying right now inside the U.S. we have 211,000 CCP military. They're coming across our southern border, aided and abetted by the evil D party. Yeah, who are sold out. So now Gene is talking about this. So we had Maui, Oahu, the island of Hawaii, and we know we saw that recent attack on Maui, and that was also an attack on the people, plus the U.S. military, Space Force, and it was by the Deep State and the CCP. Now, recently in, that was Long Beach, California, we had that information come out from Jim Willie, PhD economist from Costa Rica, that the U.S. military, that'll be the 70% under President Trump, are currently fighting cartels and the CCP. And this CCP is in addition to this number that's already operating all over the U.S. And I submit this is the group that is bombing, blowing up rail lines and letting out toxic materials into our water system, and also blowing up the food processing locations. It's all an attempt in Bank Your Life. They're trying to take over the electric power grid and other sources right now. Okay, so Gene Decode is saying, yeah. So the Space Force, and I said 10,000 were vaporized in Maui and Oahu and Hawaii, because this included the U.S. military, who came out in their TR-7 ships from underground to defend Hawaii, and they were attacked by the CCP and the Deep State. And he's saying, yeah, the Space Force was underground in Lahaina, and they were attacked by directed energy weapons, as were the people, and people were vaporized, their houses burned down on the foundation, and their children disappeared. Now, we're hearing different sources saying that all the children have been found, but when I research the sources and their evidence, it doesn't stand up. So I'm submitting the majority of those children are still missing. And so the Deep State and the CCP used the directed energy weapons in Hawaii, and the evil and corrupt police department, and we know FEMA was there, and the FBI dressed up like National Guard, also to keep the people isolated in one area, wouldn't let them evacuate the area, so they were killed. And Gene Decode says, yeah, high enough temperature on vehicles to melt glass and metal. It's directed energy, but it did not affect UN Blue. And many of the rich people in the last 2 years have painted their houses, their roofs, UN Blue. So yeah, it was planned for a long time, wasn't it? Now, Gene is bringing this out. There are reports that many people said they saw white panel trucks loading up children. So that seems to hold up. Yeah, so that's going on. Well, we have the CCP attacking the U.S. Now, I submit that China, the CCP, is also operating and controlling the shipping through the Panama Canal as part of their war strategy to take us down from the inside. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah. Hal Turner brought this out that 11 out of 14 of our Navy carriers are currently in port. They're not out to sea, which raises many questions. Are they here to help defend the United States? Are they here as a deep state plan to have them on location and taken out by a preemptive strike on the U.S.? That's unknown. So Hal Turner's supposition is, a setup like Pearl Harbor. We know that that was a U.S. ploy to get the American people on board with World War II. The Pearl Harbor, Gulf of Tonkin, and other 9/11, other events. Okay, now Awakening Cosmic Reality is giving information about, we have Canada. So we have this going on. Let me get rid of this so we can understand our map. So we have NORAD as part of our U.S. military. And NORAD is made up of the U.S. and Canada. Yeah. And North American Aerospace Defense Command, it's U.S. plus Canada, based out of Peterson Space Force Base in El Paso, Texas. They also have a location, and so they're in El Paso. They're also in Colorado Springs, Cheyenne Mountain, that's underground. They're also up in Canada and British Columbia. And there are underground tunnels connecting these. Elena Kupolnik is putting that forth. And she's talking about when we saw the Chinese spy balloons. Now, I covered that. And I said that they were using the balloons because they could get closer to the Earth than satellites to observe what are the Earth changes going on in the U.S. And I gave that information out at the beginning of this video from Zeta Talk about Evansville, Indiana shifting. So I submit to you, we have magma inside the Earth rising, we have space impacts coming in, we have changing terrain. So Elena is bringing up the Chinese spy balloons, and she says they were also to track the underground bases between NORAD and Canada. Now we had this. When we had that attack in Maui, that was Kerry Cassidy brought this out that NORAD gave a stand down order because it was controlled by the deep state, would be logical. Now, who's the head of NORAD? They have commanders, but they're under the Joint Chiefs. And we saw abruptly, I think that was yesterday, the head of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, suddenly resigned. I submit. And it's coming out that when he took over in January of 2021, after the UNED Congress put in place JB, that General Mark Miley signed and had all the other Joint Chiefs sign a Pledge of Allegiance to JB and not the Constitution of the United States of America. I submit General Miley was the one who gave the stand down order when the people of Maui were attacked along with the U.S. military, because he's in collusion with the CCP. All right, so that's going on. And now we have this. We have, oh yeah. Apparently things are rolling along and we're going to see some kind of impeachment activity take place. Now, I submit to you that we have illegally operating court systems in the U.S. We know in Georgia and New York, bringing charges against President Trump. He's up to like 91. So there's 4 courts who have thrown out the Constitution and all forms of law to bring charges against President Trump. I submit they're acting as weaponized court arms of the D Party. But we do have this coming out, that in the Congress, and I submit they're being pushed. I think, you know, a lot of people are coming out with pushing on them, Congress, that they could not get money to fund the government past September unless they impeach JB. So McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, put that forth an inquiry, even though the people of the United States, certainly the ones who are awake, are familiar with all the evidence from Hunter's laptop and so on. So this is going forth. Plus, we did have a court in the last day or two bring 4 felony charges against Hunter that had to do with guns. Nothing about other things he was doing, along with the family members of, let's see, in Ukraine in 2014, the U.S. Put in a coup led by Victoria Nuland, who passed out cookies in front of the Capitol building in Kiev, Ukraine, while snipers shot down Ukraine citizens who were against the change in their government from a democratically elected president to the one the U.S. put in, Z. So that's going on. So at any rate, after that, we had Hunter, and we had family members of Nancy Pelosi, Mitt Romney. Oh, and Mitt Romney in the last day or two said he's not running for re-election. Nancy's not running. Let's see, who else? I think that was, there were some other members. Okay, who had children who were put on the board of directors of Burisma, the Ukraine oil and gas, and they were making tens of thousands of dollars per month just siphoning it off because the U.S. Deep state government was doing that. Yeah. So Speaker McCarthy, he's bringing that. We're going to make an inquiry into JB. But it also appears that the D Party doesn't want JB. And they're actually on board with impeaching because that eliminates him from their political having to handle him and do something. Get rid of JB so they can get another candidate in. Dr. William Mount is bringing this out. Yeah, impeach JB for treason, bribery, plus. Oh, yeah. And Real Raw News is reporting that the Marines have arrested Janet. So we'll have to see how that goes in the future. And McCarthy raises an impeachment inquiry. Yeah. Dr. William Mount believes this is a facade. So, yeah. We'll see. And now we have this from World News Report today about Nancy Pelosi. Now, Nancy Pelosi, this is not the flesh and blood Nancy. She was arrested in May of 2021. That was according to Gene Decode and taken to Gitmo. There's a substitute for her. She says of herself, I'm a cold-blooded reptilian. Yeah, we believe it, Nancy. And she came out with this and made a public statement. Oh, yeah, we do engage in smear tactics. We make up these falsehood lies about other people, leak them out to the press, and so it goes with that taking down of our enemies, like the Republicans, and so on. Yeah. Nancy, a lot of people are awake. And now I'll end this with the warrior creed I received from God on September 5. I pledge allegiance to God the Father, creator of all. I come under the banner of God through the blood covenant of God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua. And I am taught warfare by God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. It's good to remember God is in charge and He is on the move with billions of His war angels now on earth. And we say, bring it, Father. I love you and I'll see you soon.